Chapter 8. What took so long? Laney asked as she took the cup. She kept her voice low and glanced around at the other crew members. You're cutting it pretty close. Marianne shrugged. The machine had a problem. You'll get used to that. I could have gone off the compound, but I didn't want to risk being late and leaving you all alone. Thanks. I appreciate that. Though Laney had met most of the crew, she still felt like the outsider. And thanks for the coffee. I was up way too late last night. Hot date? Marianne asked with a wink. Hardly. The word escaped Laney's mouth more as a snort than a word. She'd unpacked and then lain in bed, unable to sleep, as she tried to figure out what she wanted out of life after this show. First of all, I have no car, so who exactly would I have gone on a date with? Marianne glanced to the front left and indicated with her head. Justin's available. She said the words with a serious tone, but the smile that tugged on the corners of her mouth betrayed her. No, thank you, Laney said. Besides, men don't seem to want the girl next door. They want the Jennifer Lopez's and Kim Kardashians of the world, and I am definitely not that. Don't sell yourself short. You are beautiful, and one day you'll meet the right man. Laney scoffed. Easy for you to say. You've already found your Prince Charming. Marianne had filled her in on everything Laney had missed in the last decade, including her marriage to a renowned cardiac surgeon. It seemed there was a man out there for everyone, except her. She was trying to be patient and wait on God's timing, but it certainly wasn't easy. The door opened and Peter stepped in. He scanned the room as if doing a visual count. It wasn't hard as the crew was small. Nodded and then began to speak. Great. It looks like everyone is here. I decided it would be nice for you all to meet our cowboy. He comes from the great state of Texas, where he owns a farm and a cattle ranch. The door opened and a man stepped in. Dark hair peeked from beneath a black cowboy hat, and when he removed it, Laney saw cool blue eyes. Her breath caught as he stepped closer to Peter. His chiseled features seemed almost etched from stone, but he didn't appear fierce. Far from it. He looked masculine, yet soft wasn't the right word, but like someone you could share secrets with. And instead of seeming cocky as she had expected, he seemed embarrassed to be there and facing them all. A light pink color graced his cheeks, and his eyes shifted from them to the floor. Hi, everybody. I'm Tyler Hall, and I guess I'm your new cowboy. How on earth is this man single? Laney whispered to Marianne. He's gorgeous. Marianne's eyebrow lifted. Two possibilities. One, possibly for the same reason you are. He hasn't found the right person yet. Or two, and more likely, he needs money or recognition for something. Maybe his ranch. They pay them? Only him. It isn't usually much, but as I said, most do it hoping to appear on another show after. So he was getting paid. Somehow Laney couldn't imagine this man doing it just for the fame or the money, though. He looked too uncomfortable. Besides, there was a wholesome, honest look to his face, and she guessed there was another reason behind his acceptance. Tyler, I'll introduce you to everyone in a minute, but now that you're here, I'll give a rundown of the show. The women will be arriving tonight, 20 of them. We'll be filming the first few weeks here. Cameras are in the house and run 24/7. We don't always use that footage, but it's nice to have. Plus, we'll film a date episode every few days. Those air every week on Mondays and Tuesdays. So most of the people you see here will be the editing team working around the clock to make sure those episodes are ready. Justin will monitor the focus group who sees the episodes first to see if the audience doesn't connect with certain women, or believes that others should have more time. Generally, we take the top 4 contestants back to the cowboy's house to meet his family and friends. The final episode with the proposal will be filmed there if Tyler has no objection. No objection from me, Tyler said. I want a woman who doesn't mind a ranch life, so it's important for them to see it. Laney wondered what a ranch life entailed. She'd only known the city life, though the few movies she'd seen set in the country had held a certain appeal. When Peter finished his spiel, he began taking Tyler around, introducing him to the crew. Laney figured she had enough time to drain the last of her coffee and sneak the stick of gum she had in her pocket. He might be off limits, but there was no reason to spew coffee breath on the man when she met him. She tipped back her cup and sighed. All gone. She'd have to ask Marianne how to work the machine later so she could make herself some more. Are you done? I'll go throw these away. Laney wiggled her cup at Marianne to indicate what she meant. Sure, thank you. Marianne handed over her cup, and Laney made her way toward the door where the trash can sat. But before she reached the corner, her foot caught on the leg of a chair, pushed back just a little too far. The cups flew out of her hand as her body fell forward and a little to the right. She expected to smack the concrete floor. She didn't hit the ground. Instead, strong arms enveloped her, and she found herself staring up into Tyler's face. Oh, gracious, he had the most amazing blue eyes, dark like sapphires. "Easy there. You okay?" His voice broke through her stare, and she realized her hands were splayed across his chest. His muscular, solid chest. Heat burned up her neck, and she knew her ears were probably blazing beacons of her attraction to him. "Sorry, I guess I should pay more attention to where I'm walking." She tried to extricate herself from his arms as gracefully as possible in hopes that no one else had seen the spectacle and she wouldn't become the laughingstock of the crew. "And here I thought you were just falling for me." His eyes twinkled as he grinned at her, and Laney's knees turned to jelly. "I don't believe we've met. I'm Tyler Hall." He held out his hand for a shake. Laney hoped her palm was dry and not the sweaty mess she feared it was as she placed her hand in his. His face didn't shift into one of disgust, which gave Laney the courage to speak. "I'm Laney Swann, your makeup artist?" Her voice came out scratchy and quiet, but she resisted the urge to clear her throat. She didn't want to belay her nervousness any more than she already had. "I have a makeup artist?" He blinked at her. "Do I need one?" Laney had no idea if he were serious or simply fishing for a compliment. Well, it's more about making sure you look good on the cameras. HD picks up everything." His eyes bore into hers, sending a tingle down her spine. "Well, I guess I'll be seeing more of you in the future." "Yep, every day." Oh, geez, she sounded like some giddy schoolgirl. She clamped her mouth shut to keep from spewing any more nonsense at the man. He held her gaze another moment before Peter called him back over to introduce him to the editing team. Laney let out a breath and made her way back to Marianne. She kept her head down, but she could feel the heat clawing up her neck. "What was that about?" Marianne asked with a raised eyebrow as Laney sat. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you looked like a starstruck fan down there. Your face was all flushed. I haven't seen you look like that since Dallas." "Oh, goodness." Laney dropped her head in her hands. "Was I that obvious?" Marianne giggled. "How could it not be obvious? You practically swan dived into his arms. You better be careful or you might end up a contestant yourself." Laney groaned into her hands. "I didn't mean to. He should have just let me fall. This is so embarrassing. Of course I would have to be rescued before he even knows me. I can't believe I'm going to have to be working so close to him. Not to mention watching him go on dates to find a wife." Another groan billowed forth. Yes, there was that. She had forgotten about that fact momentarily. "Don't remind me. I'm beginning to think this was a very bad idea." Tyler's eyes followed the pretty blonde the rest of the meeting. She wasn't one of his contestants, but he couldn't deny the surge of electricity that had shot through his arms when he'd caught her. And her eyes. There was something about them that stuck in his mind. A vulnerability he not only wanted to explore, but also wanted to protect. But that was silly. He didn't even know the woman. "I saw that you met Laney, our new girl, but let me introduce you to Marianne, one of our main camera operators," Peter said, leading the way to the two women. The red had disappeared from Laney's face, but she kept her eyes averted from his as Peter introduced him to the Korean woman next to her. Was that from embarrassment, or had she felt something too? "It's a pleasure to meet you, Tyler. I'll be filming the dates, so I guess I'll get to see a lot of you." "Looking forward to it," he said, shaking her hand. "All right, that's all the crew, but let me show you around the place and then you can get settled in for a few hours before Laney comes to do your makeup. Are you ready to meet the women?" "I suppose I will be in a few hours." "Great. I think you'll really like the women we found for you. They come from all walks of life, but they matched your personality questions." Peter continued talking as he led Tyler around the compound and then finally to his space. The simple main room held just a table and a few chairs, and a single hallway led back to a bedroom with an attached bath. Nothing extreme, but nice. It wasn't home, but Tyler thought it would be a suitable replacement for a few weeks.